welcome to Mr. Newton's Neighborhood. I'm Scott Newton, and I am a card-carrying skeptic. I used to believe in all sorts of pseudoscience, conspiracy theories, the paranormal, and other such things. So what changed that? Well, today I'm going to tell you my story on how I became a skeptic. Hello. It's important to start with a little background to understand my journey from believer to skeptic. Ever since I can remember, I've loved the arts and acting. As a child, it would be rare not to see me drawing or acting like a ham. I was also raised in a very religious family who prayed together daily, and needless to say, went to church on Sundays. My wife's back there watching me. The first time I practiced this with my wife and daughter, and I got all emotional and I cried halfway through, and I think that's all out of my system, so now I'm afraid I'm going to be really stiff. But anyway, in high school, I also got into photography, and in college, I decided to make music. So I was a very, emotional and creative person. I still am. Also, from the time I could remember, I loved mysteries. I loved the idea of ghosts and alien abduction and big government conspiracies and all kinds of things. Then in college, I studied photography, illustration, and fine art. Seemed natural. Also, at that time, I developed a distrust for the government. Some of the distrust was justified, and some not so much. That distrust naturally led to an interest in conspiracy theories. They were fascinating and mysterious and helped explain a little of why I felt I had no control or power in the system. It's also important to point out that I'm bipolar. Although all our emotions are unreliable at times, mine would become even more unreliable than the average person from time to time. So that being said, I was primed to be someone who is bound to believe in pseudoscience, conspiracy theories, and the supernatural. However, from a very young age, I also questioned everything, as of course you should, but much to my parents' chagrin, I also had questions that they didn't have answers to or that went against their beliefs. Having had zero critical thinking experience, I accepted many of the answers my parents gave me growing up, and as a young adult, many of the conspiracy theories, paranormal claims, and pseudoscience. My parents didn't believe in the conspiracy theories, but they did believe in a little pseudoscience. Multi-level marketing crap.
It gives youthful vitality and organ support, and even promotes a healthy immune system. It also encourages, enhances, and is essential for some other stuff you don't question. Did you just notice all the claims I made so far are vague and don't really mean anything at all? Of course you didn't, and we're going to take advantage of you by using your lack of scientific understanding to buy and sell this product.
But that's another story. Although I was asking all the right questions with an open mind, I was getting all the wrong answers. I believed in all of it. Ghosts, ancient aliens, something like the Illuminati, 9/11 being a controlled demolition, and a lot more. This reminds me of the famous quote, "I believe in keeping your mind open, but not so far open your brain falls out." Well, my brain was on the f***ing floor. So, how did I pick my brain up off the floor and go from being a believer in pretty much everything to becoming a critically thinking skeptic? It was a process that started in my early 20s and finally a complete turnaround by about the age of 30. I'm 40 now, by the way, just to give you an idea of how long I've been a skeptic. It's been about a decade. What changed everything? Well, in a nutshell, it was two major things. One, I knew being bipolar, I sometimes didn't make rational decisions, especially when I was on a manic high or a low. I also didn't want to rely on medication. So I decided I needed to track my behavior and learn about how my brain works to identify when I was being irrational. Like right now recording this. I keep getting pissed off when technical problems go completely irrational. Anyway, this led to an interest in the brain in general, and I soon found out that nobody's brain is 100% reliable, and that our emotions as well as cognitive errors lead everyone to make faulty decisions at times. This interest in the brain and human behavior began in my early 20s. By my mid-20s, I learned enough to let go of ghosts and religion thanks to an interest in how the brain works and some philosophers who just made a lot of sense to me. The second major thing and the defining pivotal moment was when a good friend gave me the book Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan, which helped point me in a direction to develop critical thinking skills and a love for science. You could even say a passion for science. Although it was exciting to discover this major passion and learn more about how our brains work against us and learn how to spot faulty logic, I was simultaneously frustrated by the way the public education had done me and almost everybody else an incredible disservice. In elementary school, I loved science. In high school and middle school, I hated it. Well, so I thought. I didn't really understand that science was a mystery-solving creative process and that you could apply the tools from the scientific method to everyday life and, well, just about any claim. I hated it because my classes were either taught by people like gym teachers who didn't know shit about science, or teachers who were just boring and had us memorize information to pass tests. And the information given in these outdated textbooks gave little to nothing on how the process works or the mind-blowing things that we've discovered. There was practically nothing in my middle through high school public science education about the excitement of discovery or teaching us how to think instead of what to think. And that is what science is. It's a creative way to think, ask questions, and sometimes even discover mind-blowing things. All the stuff I'd been into my entire life and had no idea. I suddenly felt cheated out of years of education. Had I known then what I know now, I would not have gone to college for the arts. I'd have gone into the sciences. But of course I'd still make art. I love art. Having an understanding of how science works and having critical thinking skills at this point in time is critical. To quote Carl Sagan, "We've arranged a global civilization in which most crucial elements profoundly depend on science and technology. We have also arranged things so that almost no one understands science and technology. This is a prescription for disaster. We might get away with it for a while, but sooner or later, this combustible mixture of ignorance and power is going to blow up in our faces." So that brings me to becoming a vocal skeptic. Having lost a decade of my adult life falling for and even sometimes debating and promoting bullshit, I became determined to help at least a few people not lose too much of their life to nonsense. And this is exactly what led me to start this YouTube channel. Hopefully I can give some people who are already asking questions the tools to think logically and spot bullshit. And at least, maybe point them in the right direction, and hopefully through that also find a love of science. So I'm going to recommend a few books. 3 books I highly recommend. They are not only a quick read, but extremely fun to read, are Paranormality by Richard Wiseman, The Believing Brain by Michael Shermer, and of course, Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. I'm Scott Newton, and I am a card-carrying skeptic. Thanks for watching.
Mr. Newton's Neighborhood was made possible by viewers like you.
Be a neighbor and subscribe.